Today, I'm going to talk about facts on marriage, facts that you're going to love. And if you're watching this, you can look in the background. I wonder if by the end of this you could guess where I am. And I might, while I'm in this city, what the heck. I'll give it a few minutes if you guess. Um, but there's some indisputable facts in life that you just can't argue with. And I know in today's world, people say there's no such thing as absolute truth. Well, that doesn't even make sense, by the way. So, the only thing that if you say there's no such thing as absolute truth, you're saying that's a circular statement. You're saying except for the fact that there's no absolute truth. That's absolute. So it's whatever somebody decides. So basically, they're choosing things that they don't want to believe. That's really what it is. But there's some things everybody will believe. Like if you throw a rock off a building, the rock's going to hit the ground, and somebody's going to say, "Well, what if the wind is blowing?" I know, but hey, uh, the wind's not going to blow forever. It's going to hit the ground. I'll throw a big rock off the building. It's the law of gravity. It is real. There are other laws out there. If you rob a bank and get caught, you're going to prison. There's well, not there. Some people get off on it. Well, yeah, but you're going to prison. If you eat terrible, chances are, and you don't exercise, chances are your health's not going to be great. Everybody knows that one grandfather who smoked till he was 100. I get it, and ate at McDonald's every day, but that's that that living your life based on hoping that it's not going to happen to you is, in my opinion, a terrible way to live. We don't do anything if every time we got in a car, most people died on the way to work. Most people died. Would you get in a car? No. If the doctor says we have a 95% chance of living from whatever it is, or a 98% chance of living from whatever it is, disease or virus we call it, 98%. All we folks like, oh no, 2%. Oh gosh, 2%. It's like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. I want the 99.99999% chance, right? But when it comes to our marriage, most marriages don't make it, and yet we hope ours is the one marriage that beats all the odds, and not have to lift a finger to do it. Well, but there's nothing else in life you can really do well at without working on it, right? Can you name one thing that's like your job? I mean, if I don't know what's the best or worst job or easiest or hardest job in the world. I would think that most jobs require some sort of element of, hey, I'm going to do the best at what I do. I and it takes some effort to get good at it and to know everything is. So I don't think your job would be it. Raising kids, I mean, oh my gosh, that's not that's not easy, and that takes effort, and we'll talk about that in another video. So let's take your car for example. I mean, you can hope. You don't have to change the oil, and you can hope it all works out. You don't have to balance the tires, rotate the tires, buy new tires, new brakes. You don't have to change your fluids, your brake fluid, your transmission fluid, all that. So you don't have to do it. You can hope it all works out, and the car will go 100,000 miles. You know, it's probably not going to work out that well. You're probably going to run out of tires, run out of brakes. The viscosity in the oil is going to be terrible, and you're going to roast your engine. It's just, I mean, that's what. Who does that? I know there's some people like, well, I drove my car 20,000 miles without oil change. Well, but at 20,000, you did get an oil change in, or 15,000, you did get an oil change. You did do something to the car. In worst case, you put gas in it, right? Um, it's just like, I mean, no, who does that? It's probably just somebody who's never driven a car, uh, and had no idea, and somebody hears a car and just assume they knew what to do. But now the light even comes on the dash and says, "Hey, you gotta." If the light comes on, it says you don't have to. You can be oblivious to how to operate a car, and the light's going to come on and say, "Hey Russ, you need to change oil. Hey Russ, you need to do this. Hey Russ, you need to do that." So now there's just nothing uh, that you. Why would you even want to? Why would you go against those odds? If you're spending that kind of money on a car, why would you not? I don't know. Let's say your house. What if you never paint it? Well, you got vinyl siding. What if you never put a new roof on it? Well, over, yeah, 20 something years they last now, right? What if you, what if, I mean, but at 20 something years, you still got to replace the roof. You still got to paint the windows, or you got to clean the house, or mow the grass, or trim the hedges. I mean, there's something, vacuum, mop, whatever. There's just, I can't think of anything that we do in life that I'm sure there is that you just kind of hope it's going to be all right. Now, I do. I have coached kids in various sports, mainly a little baseball and basketball. And I would have kids that would come to practice and expect to be really, really good and want a lot of playing time, and they didn't ever practice at home or work on it, and their parents didn't work on it with them. Yeah, and they hoped they could be a really good basketball player. That's same, but just I can see where people do that, but you talk to a famous basketball player like like Michael Jordan. You talk about him. I mean, those people outwork out, study out everything everybody else. They study their. I mean, they're a student of the game as much as a gifted athlete, right? So so hoping it all works out is kind of crazy to me. And so today I want to throw out some of those statistics. And I want not just it's just not a stat video, but talk about how do we get there, and where do we start where we are. Because some people say things like, even they don't believe the truth. I started out with that. They say, hey, one plus. How do we really know 1 plus 1 is 2? And I've heard recently it's been on the news about that, but or 2 plus 2 is 4. But we know you could call it Bob or Jeff or whatever. We know if we put a anything a dollar right in front of you, and then beside it we put another dollar. There are $2 there now, unless something changes, like you add another dollar or the wind blows one away. But if you just literally put one of anything and then another one of anything, there are two there. Believe it or not, there are studies out there, mathematical studies. I saw one. It was like 1,000+ pages long. No, I didn't read it, but it was proven the fact that 1 plus 1 equals 2. So it's not just something. It's not just something we dreamed up how the facts are. So today I want to talk about facts on marriage. Not, and when I mention statistics, I want to go over that just a little bit as well. Uh, so some some people who are on the hope plan, as I like to say, that's not the hope plan isn't really much of a plan. I just hope it's all going to work out, and we do that with our kids, right? That is one that we hope it works out. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I don't know where the statistics are on just say, hey, I don't really want to raise my kids. I want the school system and the church and the grandma and everybody else to raise them. I just want to be the fun parent. I just want to, make the money, take them on vacations, play ball with them in the front yard, and yell at their coaches from the stands or whatever. I don't want to. I don't really want to have to teach all the values and what's right and wrong and what's my value system. I mean, let's let somebody else do all that, right? Well, um, sometimes that works out. Maybe you're a terrible human, and maybe they're better off getting raised by somebody else. Well, I don't believe that probably true. Or you wouldn't. Why would you be watching this? But the people who do that are basically advocating the role, and they're hoping it all works out. And I don't know. I just don't like that plan. I don't like the man. I got this gift of a child, and I'm gonna give it to somebody else and hope it works out in whatever area it is. Maybe it's intellectual with school. Maybe it's how to be a friend, the value system of right and wrong and loving, how to be loving and caring, and that's a whole nother video. But I just don't like the hope plan. And when it comes to marriage, I don't like the hope plan. Uh, the stats are most marriages don't make it, but I can tell you some things that if you'll do these things, you can tilt those stats in your favor rather than against you. So why do people not want to um, Why did it? By the way, have you guessed the city yet behind me? I bet you have. I bet a lot of you have. And I don't know how the sound is here. I'm having to use my earbuds. There's a little bit of background noise around, so I try to use those. I don't typically do that. Like when I'm in my studio at home, where I live, it's a little bit better. But anyway, we'll talk about the background later. And those of you who are listening, not watching, I'll still let everybody know here in a minute. So back to what I was saying. So what are some of the why don't people work on their marriage? And there's several reasons. I've done videos on this. I don't really want to spend a lot of time here, but I'll share with you. There's several. One is uh, they don't think they don't see the benefit. They don't see that it's an issue. And so guys are really stupid about this. You know, guys will walk in and she's mad, and you're like, for what? You were fine yesterday. Nothing happened between yesterday and today. And then when you have a conversation, she's bringing up stuff that happened three months ago, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, as she should. But I would have preferred that you bring up something from 3 months ago, bring it up 3 months ago and deal with it then, and then 2 months ago then, and 3 weeks ago then, that sort of thing. But she's bringing it up because you did something stupid for all those times. She's saying probably that's what we do, right? We do stupid things. Um, so, uh, but we're oblivious to what is happening, and so we come home and she's mad. But we could have prevented that if we were focused on it. If we realized that our spouse, our wife, is the most important human on earth to us, and if that's true, then we would be focusing on that, right? Like if our job is important, we focus on our job, that the paying job or whatever, volunteer job or whatever it is you do. We focus on that if it's important. Like our kids, feeding our kids, we focus on that. So every day we are focused on how do we feed our kids today, and we're also focused on how do we feed us today, and where do we get our water today. I mean, we're going to do those things, but when it comes to marriage, it doesn't seem like it's an issue. Like if you don't have water, you're thirsty, right? So it's like, oh, it's screaming at you. And then you got to focus on your kids. If you don't feed them, it's okay. They're probably gonna get in a bad mood, and you're gonna be sorry you didn't feed them, right? And probably most states in America it's illegal to not feed your kids anyway, right? Or see that they get fed. Anyway, so when it comes to marriage, it's not glaring at us on a day-to-day basis as obvious as that until 3 months later something happens and you've got 3 months of everything built up and it just gets thrown out at you all at one time. It's like, oh wow, I didn't know. And then you're like, oh, you're Johnny on the spot for a couple of days and opening the door for him, being nice and doing all these things. And then it seems to settle down and we stop doing those things. And then 5 or 6 months later, wham, 5 or 6 months later, wham. And that you do that for a number of years. And then finally she gets to the point, you know, I don't like playing this anymore. Or he gets to the point of, I just don't like my every 6 month punch in the face. Even though it might be his fault. So there's one reason people don't work on their marriage and do things. I'm gonna talk about things you can do in a minute too. But another reason, if really that's the biggest reason. If you thought it was important enough, you'd do it. We pretty much do anything we want to do. Right now, if you're a golfer, and I said, hey, you want to go play golf this afternoon or Saturday, you would say, I don't have time. I'm busy. I'm doing this, this, and this. If I said, hey, we're going to go to this fancy country club and we're going to play 18 rounds with, I don't know, Michael Jordan and you'd probably, and we're going to pick you up in a private jet, you'd say, I'm in. See, because then all of a sudden it becomes important, right? So we can do whatever we want to do if we think it's important. Next thing that I see people don't work in their marriages because they're too busy. Way too busy. So when you're that busy, then you got to stop. You got to plan. You got to get your calendars out. I've mentioned this before. My wife and I, every week, every Sunday, when we get our calendars out and say, what are we doing Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, go on through the week, and it's not like we're not flexible. So we said, hey, Tuesday night we have blank, or whatever it is, we're going to go to ball game or movie or my uncle's bar mitzvah or whatever. Not that I have a uncle that would have a bar mitzvah, but whatever it is that we're going to do, it's a it's on. We talk about it throughout the week, and then we set everybody's expectations because we're going to plan a date night. We're going to carve out a night that for years to this day on Sunday sometimes Saturday, Sunday, but we're gonna get out our phones and we're gonna compare all week long what we're gonna do, and we know which night's gonna be date night. We're always looking for it. Sometimes there's two date nights, depending on what we're doing, and then we know each other's travel. And added to this, it sets everybody's expectation. And throughout the week, if things changes, we're shooting a text back and forth. And as we get closer to Saturday, we're saying, hey, what are we doing Saturday? Because we may not know. But we may know. It depends. I'm a planner, and the people make fun of me for planning. But then other people are very grateful that I'm a planner. But I'm a planner, and I plan out, and probably plan out too much, really. But I do plan date nights. But one of the things I'm a planner because I want to guard my time with my family and guard my time with my wife. And so this happened. I've shared this before. I remember we would get up on a Saturday. And I'm with the kids. I'm saying, hey, let's go do this. We're gonna have some fun. Let's get the bikes. Let's air up the tires. We're gonna do this. And then my wife would look at, give me the stink eye. Hey, what the heck? We're cleaning the house, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's Saturday. Why would we clean the house on Saturday? And then she's thinking, well, it's Saturday. Why in the heck would we not clean the house? It was going through her mind. And then by lunch. It's really awkward, and not, everybody's kind of looking at each other. Everybody don't make eye contact with mom, and we're trying to, trying to tiptoe around, and it's just got weird. It was, this is not way to do. We need to do a little bit better job of communicating. So we started saying, what are we going to do Saturday? And if she says, well, I really want to get the house vacuumed, dusted, and dishes, laundry, painting, or whatever it is that we want to do, all that stuff has to happen. I know, and I'm certainly willing to do it. We just didn't communicate when that was going to happen. So long before Saturday, we started saying, let's just plan the nights. Or early on in our marriage, I might not come home till, I might text at 5 and say, hey, I'm going to go do blank. I won't be home till 8 or whatever. And then she'd get upset because she had dinner on plans and she was excited to see me or whatever the case would be. Like, okay, well, that I should have communicated. So now that's just some things like that. The more I communicated, the better it got. Better we set expectations, and we plan date nights. We plan to work on our marriage on date nights. Marriage isn't just about date nights. So there's something that we did. So Saturday, for example, we said, all right, what do we have to do? What are you trying to check off your list on Saturday? And it was like, I want to do this, this, and this. I said, okay, kids, we're going to get up, and then we're going to, as soon as we get these things done, then we're going to go do whatever it is we're going to go do. And everybody said, oh, great, let's do it. And we get up and we knock those out. Everybody's happy. We're all friends at the end of the day. And it's just funny how great that worked out because we made it a big deal. Another reason that I see that why people don't work on their marriage is that they ignore the stats. They ignore the truth, and they're on the hope plan. They're somehow living in unicorn world, thinking I could never have to practice basketball and I could make it to a D1 school or NBA. I can never ever have to do anything to my car and it'll go 150,000 miles. It's that living in the world of hope everything's going to work out, and that's where there's some other reasons why people don't work on their marriage. But hey, if that's you, it's that big a deal. Your marriage is not gonna. Most marriages don't make it, and believe it or not, a lot of those marriages don't make it after the age of 50. Isn't that terrible? And why I think that is? I haven't read a study on it, but just in my experience in dealing with people, I can't tell you how many people they got married. There's year or two or three or four is just like bliss and love, and they get ready with their careers, and then they start into their careers. Then kids start coming, then they sign up for basketball, ballet, band, everything, and then these kids are. It's all about the kids. And one graduates high school and off to college. The next one graduates off to college. How many have? And then there's this couple there, and they're like, oh wow, okay, I don't really have I don't really know this person. And you're like, well, that won't be me. Well, you might be the one person that doesn't have to change his oil and go 150,000 miles in the car. Yeah, that's going to be you. You know, and some people get to that point and they say, "Oh my gosh, I did do everything you just said, Russ." But now my wife and I, my husband and I, we said, "Hey, this is our opportunity to get to know each other again. Man, we shouldn't have done that. We should have date nights. We should have done." And so there are some cars that could go a long time without changing oil. And there's some people who have a lot of talent, can make it to college on basketball without practicing much. Maybe you're 7'2", and all you have to do is catch and drop it in a bucket. You know, but I don't think I like those odds. If I said 80% of the people who drive on that road today are going to get killed, you're not going to say, "Oh, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'm not worried about it." You're like, "What? Hey, take this, drink this chemical here, and it'll 80% of the people die. But if you happen to be one of the 20, then you'll get something really really good." You're like, "I'm not drinking that. Even if it's 5% of the people died and 95%, drink this and you'll be rich. But 5% of them die. So there's 5% chance you're gonna die if you drink it. You know, well, I'm not drinking that. I'm not taking that chance." But in a marriage, oh, I'm on a hope plan. So I just want to sell you on the fact that we got to be doing something on a marriage. And I mentioned date night. I throw that in there. But I also want to tell you some other facts. You can ignore these facts. And I call them percentages. I wish I could remember who this was. There was a coach in Missouri, and there's probably more than one coach. But he did every play by the percentages. He knew if it was 4th and 1 at this part of the field, and then it was this. He knew there was, if I do this play, there's an 88% chance it's successful, and if I do this play, it's 28%. And I'm gonna go with the 88% play. He just played the percentages. And what's interesting, if you've ever seen that movie Moneyball with Brad Pitt in it, I think it was early 2000s movie. But it's a true story about California Angels, and it was about the time the big TV, the big TV contracts were getting signed. All the big things were, the big leagues were. I mean, the big teams and the big cities were making crazy money, and so their payroll for their teams was like, I don't know. I don't know. Remember exactly. Cause it's been a long time since I've seen the movie. It was like 200 million for like the Yankees and Dodgers, some of the big cities, and then little people like Tampa Bay Rays or California Angels. They had like a 20 million or whatever, really low budget, and so they're competing against the Yankees and Dodgers, and how do you take 20, 30 million and compete against north of 200 million? And so they hired this general manager, and he said, "Hey, we're going to have to play the percentages," and everybody thought he was crazy, and all the coaching staff thought he was crazy, and but they realized that to win games you had to have the highest on base percentage. Got to get on base, right? This is baseball. Got to get on base. So they went to town, and they did it all by the percentages. It's so neat. I actually met Billy Beane, the general manager, and he said, it was so neat. He said that they even figured out by the percentages that the states and cities with the most electoral college votes had the better players than the cities with the fewest electoral college votes. And then they figured out the reason behind that. So if you're a really talented guy in a town of thousand people, you're going to be the hero. You're not. You couldn't buy dinner in that town. You're the high school baseball hero going on to the major leagues. You know, you're the guy. But if you're in, let's say Atlanta, Georgia, then and you're that guy, well, you're competing against 5,000 others that are just as good as you. And if you can rise to the top there, the on base percentage for somebody in Atlanta is a better player than with a high on base percentage as somebody in some little square state out west, and in some little town in some square state out west. So there's that's just giving you an idea on the playing the percentages. So today, I just want to share with you some percentages. So my wife and I have date night every week. I guarantee you that people who have weekly date nights will stay longer, married longer than people who don't. I don't know what that percentage is. Let's just say it's 5% better than everybody else. Everything's equal. We have date night. Well, it's not going to be equal because we have date night, right? And what do you do on date night? There's the fun side. There's the talking side. There's the being able to share our hearts and get to know each other. Just my wife and I, we ask questions all the time of each other. I have a list of questions, 400 or 500. Email me at russ@17laws.com, and I'll email you a lot of I just started typing them out, and I'll put them in a Word doc, so I'll send them to whoever wants them. It's just a lot of questions, and half of them are all about intimacy. So some of them it might make you blush. About half of them aren't. It could be anything. We're learning about each other. And now we've done it enough. We come up with new questions, but we also we'll say, okay, pick a number between 1 and 500, and it's okay, 450, and we'll ask that question. Well, we asked that question 3 years ago too, and guess what? Things change, and our opinions and our mind changes, and it's just so fun to ask those questions. We do that, and we actually have friends that found out about this, and when we're going camping, glamping, we're not roughing it by any stretch of the imagination. Not bragging, just saying I'm not the go out and live in the woods type guy. I have. I can go do whatever in the woods, but I love the air conditioning. I love my own shower. It's that's not, anyway. So we'll ask those questions. My friends that come over, hey, how about we ask some more questions? And you can avoid the intimacy ones or with friends and family, or you can not, whatever you want to do on that. But what's that percentage? Because we have a date night, because it's probably higher than 5%, because we're accomplishing more than just, okay, there's a lot of intimacy, or there's a lot of conversation, or there's food, or just chill. I mean, there's just loads and loads and loads of things. So if you're having a date night, it's probably higher than 5%, but let's just say that it is 5% better than everybody else. Right? What about opening the door for your spouse? Oh my gosh, Russ, are you freaking kidding me? Are you telling me that I've got to open the door for myself? Well, I'm not saying you have to do anything. You know, the reason I do that now, is because I remember a number of years ago. I know it sounds old-fashioned and weird, and I've got gray on my head. I get that. But I was at church, and I saw this guy. His name was Harold Pierce. And I saw him every Sunday, and he had a big old pep in his step. He would race his wife over to the door, and he'd open it, and every time she would just smile at him. And I thought, well, that is the coolest thing. I want my wife to smile and think I'm doing something cool for her. She didn't ask for it. She didn't expect it. She doesn't walk up to the door and go, "You gonna open it? I'll have to do it myself." No, it's nothing like she did. She doesn't require it. Do I do it every time? Pretty close to every time. I'll try to race her over there, unless I'm carrying a bunch of stuff. And then sometimes I'll still do it just to watch her smile. It's still worth it. She smiles every time. She thinks it's cool. And now my kids, my sons, I love it. When they're going somewhere with us and they see her going over, they'll go open the door for her. And then when their girlfriends, wives, whatever, they'll go do that. And they smile. I just think that's a cool thing. So what's the percentage of me staying married longer because I'm opening the door? Well, 1-2%? Maybe it's none. Maybe you think that's goofy. But if you saw the smile and the racing over there for that, but it's not just that. I usually say, hey, we're going somewhere. I don't want you to touch any doorknobs. I'm your doorknob guy. Don't push any buttons on the elevator. I'm going to push the buttons. I'm going to open the door to the hotel room. I'm going to open the door to the car. You just be the princess all the time. And I still do that. I've done that for years. And it's just, I don't know what percentage. It's a little more. So I'm playing the percentages. I'm not saying there's one thing you can do to stay married 100 years. No, I'm not saying. I'm saying playing the percentages. I'm having a date night and I'm going to open the door. I'm not going to argue with my wife. There's another thing. Do we get into arguments? Have we? Yeah, of course. Do we now? There used to be discussions, but now they're. I mean, it used to be arguments. Now they're more discussions. Do we agree on everything? Of course not. Do I drive her crazy? Yes. Does she drive me crazy? Probably not nearly as much as I drive her crazy. So I don't argue. How do I not argue? Well, one, I don't. If there's a problem, I'm not mad at her. I'm mad at the situation. So I'm saying, hey, we are talking about that thing over there. I'm not saying, and another thing, you do this, and another thing, do no. I'm saying things, and she does as well. She'll come to me and say, hey, I know you probably didn't mean it this way, because I know you're hard, and I know you really love me, and I know this, but it sounded like, it made me feel like this when you said that, but I don't think that's true. So maybe you could, and it's like, well, I'm glad you said no, no, no. You're right. I didn't mean it that way. I wasn't thinking. I really wasn't paying attention. No, not too long ago, I was joking with her way too much. Just everything I said, I was being a smart aleck because I'm a smart aleck, right? And sometimes she'll say it jokingly. Are you gonna are you done with being a smart aleck, or is this gonna be how you're gonna be all day? And I always laugh. I said, oh no, it'll be all day. And I mess with her a lot because I'm just always throwing some practical joke out there. And I kid around about saying I got to get a really funny look out of her. Like, are you that stupid? I try to get her to do something funny. I mean, to try to sell her on something crazy, a practical joke 4 or 5 times a day, believe it or not. And because I'm always doing something goofy to mess with her. Yeah, but it's fun. I'm not embarrassing her and things like that. But I do this because because it's fun and it's funny and it's just it's just fun to do that. So what's the percentage? What's the percentage of us staying longer married than somebody else? If everything else is equal, but we're having a date night, right? And we're doing these other things. I'm opening the door every time, and we're kidding around, having a good time all day. What's the percentage? Maybe another 3-4%. What about your life of intimacy? Do you think couples who are doing it 5 times a week are going to stay married longer than somebody who's not? I don't know. I don't know any stats on that. But you do. I do know this. When I talk to couples and they said, "Oh yeah, we're having sex all the time," I'm having a different conversation with them than when a couple says, "Oh no, we haven't done it in 7 months." That's a, I don't know if it's a symptom. I don't know if that's a good word. That's a telltale sign. There's some if you're doing it several times a week, your depth of problems are probably not exactly what somebody who hasn't in 7-8 months, unless there's a health issue or something crazy going on. I'm just saying, if everything's, here's a healthy couple, here's a healthy couple, these are 5 days a week, and these are once a year people, different conversation. So what's that percentage? If I'm staying married, if I'm dating and opening the door and we're having a good time and there's lots of intimacy, is that another 4%, 3%, 1%, 5%? I don't know. You can write down on a sheet of paper for you what that percentage is. We're playing the percentages here. We're not trying to solve the world's problems. We're just saying, if I do this, like for example, in your car, you remember we're doing the percentages. What if you do change oil every 15,000 miles? Will it last longer than if you change it every 10,000? Will it last longer if you change it every 5,000? Well, odds are if you change it every 5,000, it's going to last longer than if you change it every 10,000. If you, that's just, and you tire tread depth, it's supposed to be at 3 or 4 millimeters, not as safe as it's at an 8 and 9. And if you go online and look, the stopping distance between 8 and 9 and a 4 and 5 at 60 miles an hour could be like 100 yards or 100 feet. I mean, it's huge, huge. But we're going to play the percentages on our marriage. on this. So if what about what about if you flirt with your spouse a lot, which I do with mine all the time. If I'm in public from the kids and maybe not, depending on who we're with, sometimes I do more than others. When I say with the kids, do you just love watching your parents flirt and all that? Probably not. But other than that, we probably look like we really do love each other, which we do. And so, what if I'm flirting all the time and we're getting handsy with each other all the time and we're just like talking about it all the time? Is that a percentage? Does that deserve a percentage that we're always? What if we also text a lot? We're also texting throughout the day. I'm texting her, and it's not like we're wearing each other out. It's not an expectation. It's like, well, you didn't text me today. It's not that at all. Do we text every single day? I don't know. Probably. Um, so there. That. So do I get a percentage for texting fun stuff all day long? I mean, it's not just what do you want for dinner. It's fun stuff. Really enjoyed last night. Can't wait to see you again. Love you. Oh my gosh, you're going on your trip in 2 weeks. I can't believe you're gonna be gone for 2 weeks. I'm gonna miss you. Whatever it is. It's a lot about how I'm showing her love and something like that. I might shoot her or she may send me a picture that she had on her phone from 3 years ago when we were on a trip together as a reminder. Oh man, what a great trip! So we're doing stuff like that. Do I get a percentage for that? Would our marriage last half a percent, a percent? I don't know. I don't know. Let's suppose there's a couple other things I want to share. What if we never, ever, ever show disrespect in public versus showing disrespect? So if you're making fun of your husband or your wife in front of friends and family, I don't know. I would think, let's say, here's equal. You're not really praising them in public, but you're not showing disrespect. So you show disrespect. I think you're losing percentage points on staying married long. All right, that brings you below, say, 10%. I think that's a biggie. You show disrespect. It's hard for people to get over, especially it is hard to get over. So if it's here and you go down but percentage, but if you show all kinds of respect and love and everybody knows that you are in love with your spouse, that's probably some percentages, right? So that's a big gap between showing disrespect versus showing respect. Now, if you don't do either, I don't maybe get a point or two for not doing this, but I'm thinking that's probably a good. Can you get 3, 4, 5% staying married doing those things? I think so. What if you learned each other's love language? And like, what does that mean? What's the love language? I have a whole video, lots of videos on that in my book. I have a whole chapter on it. It's basically how do you feel loved? Like for me, buying me a present, that doesn't make me feel loved. But if I buy my wife flowers, she feels loved, but that's not her main one. I can't just buy her flowers every day. Eventually she'll probably get tired of flowers, but maybe not. I don't know. I haven't tried it. But for me, I'm words of affirmation. If she'll come tell me she loves me, she's proud of me, things like that. Man, I feel loved. Man, and oh man, I appreciate you. I know you. What you do is hard or whatever makes me feel understood, and she feels that she likes the words of affirmation and all that. But the other thing is, hers is quality time. If you don't know what your spouses are, the guy's probably words of affirmation. Your wife is probably quality time. I would bet the farm that's it. Does the guy have to have quality time? A lot of times the answer is yes, but it's not at the top. Do the women or the wives like the words of affirmation? Yeah, and it's usually up there. They appreciate the kind of words, but if you throw a bunch of words out there without quality time, probably your percentage is going to go way down on staying married. So if you pay attention to your love language, you know that she's a quality time girl, and you're paying attention, doing something about it. What's your chances of? Is that's probably a good 5 or 10% chance better. I mean, I mean, you are showing your spouse love exactly how they like to receive love. How could that not raise your percentage considerably? Another 5%. Now, I haven't been keeping up with these percentages. Uh, like yeah, I feel like we're north of 50%. Would that be better chance of staying married? Uh, and I've just gotten started. You see what I'm getting at? I have couples who say, "Well, I can't, he's driving me crazy or she's driving me crazy and we don't want to talk, we don't do this. I just want to know the one thing I can do, Russ, to make my marriage better. Well, golly, Bill, the biggest thing you could do is to realize there's not just one thing that you can do. You're going to have to do a lot of things. And one of them could be is a little, hey, I'm gonna start opening a door for my spouse this weekend. I'm gonna make sure I get a date night every single week. You know, by golly, I'm gonna ask Russ some of those questions. You can probably Google questions if you don't ask me. That's okay. They're out there, and that's where I got some of mine. Just finding ideas, and it kind of lets your. I didn't find many out there, but I have since looked out there, and a lot of the ones that we've already asked are out there. Not that they got them from me, but I'm sure just a lot of people asking the questions. And I've noticed online, there's you can go to Amazon. There's games for couples ask questions. I've ordered some of those. I don't really like out of the 150, 200 questions they may have. I might like 12 of them because some of them are way off the charts this way, and some of them are just really goofy. That just wouldn't meet. So I put together a list that I like. But anyway, back to we're going to do the percentages, and I'm going to start doing all these little things. If you're going to be a professional basketball player, you're going to I just have to get my free throw to be perfect. I can be perfect. No, you can't. No. You got to be able to handle the ball, dribble the ball, fake. You know, when you're dribbling the ball, you got to be able to do it with both hands without looking at the ball. And you've got to be able to, hey, if a guy's coming from this way and he's coming from this way, you need to practice. Hey, am I going to put him on my back? And which foot do I step out with for fast breaks? When I do a layup, I got to do it this way. Oh, if I'm doing a jump shot, or how do I go around a guy how can I drive through the lane with that? No, there's 100 things you've got to master. And you can't just say, coach, tell me the one thing I need to do to be a D1 school. I want to go to UT or UK or Texas, where I want to go to a big school, and I just know the one thing to be the best basketball player on the team. And they look at you like, are you crazy? That's not even a thing. Or you go to your job and you want to be a doctor or a nurse or whatever, and you say, I want to just tell me the one thing I got to know. Is it putting a needle in the arm? Is it making sure I know how to? And they look at you like, what? No, but with your marriage, we get on the hope plan and hope it works out, and it doesn't. So there's a whole bunch of little things that if we'll pay attention to all those little things. When I talk to a couple and they say, well, we've already tried everything. I said, but you're in front of me, right? And I don't say it like that, but sometimes I do. I said, well, I don't see how you could be doing this, and be sitting in front of me, right? No, when I go to couples, they'll say, I've done all these things. But the reality of it is that they tried it once, or they tried it twice, or they tried it 3 times. So they drove their spouse crazy for 5 years, and for a solid weekend, they did something nice, and it didn't wipe out 5 years, and they wonder why. And I have someone, I'll say, hey, you need to bring this. He asked me for advice, and I'll say, well, you need to tell him this. Well, I've done that. I did that twice last year. I'm like, what? If I need something, you know how many times I'll mention it to someone? As many times as it takes. Sometimes it's 50 times over 50 days. But it's however long it takes, right? And that's what I want to do. If I've not been a really good husband for a very long time, and I open the door for her, and I'm scheduling date nights, I'm doing the dishes, I'm treating her like a princess, man, I'm doing all these sort of things, and it takes her a week. Like, yeah, right. This is just a game he's playing. 2 weeks pass and you're still doing it. She's still thinking, yeah, right, whatever. 3 weeks, she's going, you know what? He might be serious about this. 4 weeks. I'm not saying it's a formula 4 weeks long. I'm just saying it may take a while to dig out of the hole, but I'm going to do it. If she doesn't appreciate me opening the door or appreciate you opening her door the first 500 times, well, maybe she will the second 500. If she didn't appreciate, if she threw the flowers in the trash the first 3 times you sent her flowers, well, send her 3 more. Eventually, maybe they won't go to the I'm saying do it as long as it takes. If you can't schedule, if the date nights don't work out perfect, keep scheduling date nights until they do. This is why date nights only don't work when you. By the way, this is a little sidebar, and I really will close and tell you what city I'm in, if you hadn't already figured it out. This is why date nights don't work when you do it like once a month. Is because part of date nights is how's your day, what's going on, this how I feel, kind of like just sharing information, and maybe you've had a glitch or two with the kids or a job, whatever. If you have weekly date nights, and if you can get together once or twice a week, even better. And it doesn't have to be a full date too during the week. Sometimes you have a full date night, and sometimes, hey, let's go sit on the porch, have a cup of coffee. Let's run down a coffee shop, get some, and hey, let's just ride together and vent and talk and unwind for 10 minutes. Just unpack our day for 5 or 10 minutes. That's good in addition to your date night. But if you don't do that, then and you have a date every 6 weeks, that date night is just throwing everything at each other, and it's almost like you're going to dread date night. That's another reason you don't want to have date nights every 6 weeks. Well, we're busy. We got this. I don't buy you. No way any of you are busier than I am. And if you don't have a babysitter, watch some more videos. I've got a way around babysitters. Oh, my kids are too small. We live in a town. We moved to a town where we didn't know anybody, had small kids, and well, guess what? We had date nights. All right, I'm going to close there. I hope I've sold you on the fact that we're going to go with the percentages. Yeah, is opening the door. You don't have to do that. I'm just using it as it. Maybe there's something that your wife loves that you think is cool. Like my wife, I'm usually the first one up in the house. I always have the coffee out where all she has to do is push the button and it magically makes coffee. And it makes it on the fly. I used to, back in the horse and buggy days, have a pot of coffee there. So when she got up, it was already made. But now, we got the fancy espresso, Nespresso, fancy amazing coffee thing. So all she does is push the button, and whether I'm there or not, I know every morning that's what she loves it. She thinks it's cool. And it's probably weird if I stop doing that at this point. She wouldn't say anything. Or she might ask me if I'm mad at her if I didn't do it, because it would be off. But so it may be something that you have. Again, we're playing the percentages. There's 100 little things that we do, and we got to do 100 of them all the time, and it's because we want to, and it's fun, and it's who we are. And like date night, almost every date night, we still learn something about each other. That is so crazy. My wife we've been married a long time. Just a couple years ago, found out what my favorite song was. It's never come up, and I'm a music guy. I appreciate music, but there's a story behind it, and it's not. And my playlist is all over the place, by the way. You'd be shocked if you saw my playlist. But anyway, I am in Nashville, Tennessee. I'll probably do a couple more videos while I'm here, but I hope this helps. Again, we're playing the percentages today.